it was just because I didn't get the announcement. But yeah, when we get back, I'm pretty positive we'll be back. Coming down. So we'll be on the news with that. And then you can for sure play cans with and we'll do this one. Those girls want to do it really well. It's just tough because we never have people aren't paying attention. It's tough. Fingers! Keep the ball Go hit the ball and I'll stop it. Come to you, bastard. I'm sorry, you were standing there. It's your fault for standing there. Like I said, I can hear really well, so I can tune it. You always tune everything with the D string, the guitar's tuned in. So I just tune it to whatever I tune, what I like the D string to sound like, and then I tune it to all of it out. And I tune it all perfectly. But so that's why I always use my app still, because I'll tune it to what my ear like. So anyway, but yeah, we can hear all the way. Let's do the football. We play dodgeball with our footballs.
all. Except you're dodging. Oh man. Only the best sound in the world.
Like I said, even Charlie Hall, I've got his version of it here. I'll show you.
Chill out, man.
That's funny that it says that. His original was like a G.
How about this? Try this on instead.
Okay, so what worship leaders will do? There's this weird thing. I don't like it at all. But there's this weird thing that people aren't good enough to understand that the worship leaders are trying.
Listen, Alex.
They will take out stuff like this, the red cards, and they'll take
Another
that
one.
stuff out so they can understand a lot of what people get.
You should actually do that. Kill ping pong.
I don't like this version of the song.
I actually
Oh my gosh.
What they usually are
I actually
doing.
like this.
So
I like
they
it.
did this for quite a long time.
Oh, dude, hit the.
Nerf rival.
Yeah, I know.
When I got his version, it's very clean. It's like there's G and D and C like clean.
Throw it.
But when I watch him play, this is
Oh my God.
when I watch his fingers. He plays it every time. I've seen him in multiple different places. This is what he plays. So I don't ever trust the internet. I directly watch Chris Tomlin.
Triple shot.
And they're always having the bass note.
Get him.
Like into their they always fatten stuff up. They always make it bigger.
I just hit him up on the ground.
To walk them and things that they don't write for.
Oh man, this is awesome.
I
gotta tell Daniel about
And so I just never trust it. What I do is I look at the sound test right off the bat, and then I go, what is this missing? And I go through and I listen to it, and then I go through it like one time.
There we go. Cody.
That's what I've done with
do
this
this.
one right here. On here, you can see the difference. I had the D on it, but they had the D, but look at this. These people have the C right. Those
Cody!
people on Worship Cafe.
Cody, watch out.
And they may have done that for
Fine.
something fancy, and that may be a remix of Charlie Hall. And they might have had like, that's what you gotta think too. They may have had like a violin doing something in between before they resolve on the D.
All the Nerf rival balls.
You know, like you just never know what they might be thinking. So you just do it. Another thing is that see that they empower you, and then I've got Doc showing that it just keeps hanging out. Yeah, in his version, I think he's like,
This is you.
didn't work out. So he wants people
How about trying to live?
But that's not right either.
It's not gonna be that easy.
So that's really strange.
The Nerf rival ones are so. Did you get it harder? No, because you can't see them.
Big one.
Drop it! Drop it! Drop it! Ow! This hurt!
Escape.
Guess what?
This is what I found. This is the bridge that I've never heard play ever. And this is the PDF file. That's what it's telling you. Charlie Hall wrote the song. You find the PDF of the actual music that he wrote. And he has this in every version that I have never in my life ever heard him read.
Oh, yeah.
Never. Like, I can't find anything on the internet. I have a song like 3 different
Cody, you're gonna kill someone.
He has never ever played this, so that means he must have he must have made it when he was a lot younger. And he didn't like the sound of it, so he had to his original song when he was young. You know what? I think that's exactly what church he does too, and that's exactly how he does it. He still plays
Oh!
yeah, they'll do tags. They'll do tags. They'll add stuff on it. They'll bring other subversive choruses.
Ping pong death mode. It's mixed between
But
ping
anyways,
pong
yeah,
and
but Tony
dodgeball.
pretty much got this whole next time.
Pong ball.
And we'll plan on meeting on Tuesday, okay? Can we meet at 5:30? 5:30. 5:30. Yeah.
They're Primal thing. Yeah.
Alex!
Again.
Did you, did Bob get a hold of you?
I'm sending Andrew. He's better. Because it's time to go when we don't have sound.
Yeah, do we want to do sound?
If you don't want to, you don't have
Epic
to.
failure.
I don't know. I just want to.
Hey, Alex, guess what?
It really shouldn't be hard.
Alex, God, why are you trying to hit me?
It's not, and it's
Is that the
not
point of the
important at
game?
all. I don't know. Like, just show me how the answer.
You're acting like you've never played this game 100 times.
There are things like the USB switch and all that stuff that do make it better. For me,
Is it just you tonight?
no, it's gonna be me.
Alex!
Or the girl. Mom?
Which ones? Audrey and Dallas?
Yeah. They
Audrey went downstairs first. Dallas went downstairs shortly thereafter.
Well, I know they
The one who was with Dallas. I haven't met her, but I know you're talking about her. We saw her.
okay, yeah. Well, they had a big old blowout. I was like cleaning up the room. I didn't know what was happening because Bob was over here, and then I was
Emo!
I got big purple! Now I just need a paddle. I need a paddle. I got big purple.
Wait.
Oh!
Hey! Alex, watch out!
I don't know what's
I need a big purple. I don't need to. Whoa, baby!
I have to be.
Super strength! Someone getting get hurt doing this. I'm not gonna laugh.
Now, where is it?
You might want to back off. This is getting dangerous.
But that's up to you if you want me on sound or
Oh my gosh.
just either all bad.
Sad.
Connor, quit
Alex, you got the emo!
We'll just do it unplugged.
Unplugged?
Alex!
Ah, that hurt.
Give me some ammo, Alex!
Your tea is right there. My tea, my very sweet tea. I need to talk to him without Dallas, your best friend wants you. Which is me, like right over here.
I'm gonna die trying to do this.
Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here.
Fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam.
You get hit in the mouth.
Sam? Yeah, we're not gonna go out to ice cream, but we'll
Alex!
do next one. Sound good? Yeah, and then you can plan with your parents. Yeah.
Wait, why am I throwing at you?
It's fun with me.
Oh, look at this. Here, Cody! Cody! Oh, I'd like to see you try.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that was truly incredible.
You killed him.
Are you done with this song?
Drop the ball. Drop the ball. So random. I love it.
Ow! Oh, Alex! You're asking for it, bro.
Logan. It'll happen if you don't pause it.
Oh, that's sad.
The flock of birds behind the tree. Why?
Hey.
No! This is a nice
Not called killer people. You gotta come up with something more dangerous. You gotta come up with something more dangerous than that. Killer pig.
Walking away!
Couch swallowed away.
Yeah!
That's an impressive couch.
Oh, son of my lip!
Sitting over here.
Losing circulation to my head.
Oh no! Stay here. No, stay! Hey, you are staying here with us.
All right.
I
I think we need to switch up our seating.
No! Yes!
Okay. Woo.
So comfortable now.
We're gonna play a game. In this game, we need to know exactly how many seats we have. I'm not actually gonna use that. Change my mind. So this is how it's gonna go. This is a 3-seat couch, so spread out, cover each person. 2-seat couch, 3-seat couch, 1, 1, 3, 1. Could you find a couch for me just for the sake of the game? The total all for the sake of later, like when the game's over, but just for the sake of the game. So this section Jamie's on will be a 2. No, you're right. Yeah, with that
We can
one.
have somebody else sit over.
No, it's not acceptable. 2 and 2, yeah. 2 seats in a row, and it's purely because I don't like you. I'm just kidding.
Wow, Daniel's like dropping the ball.
That's it. That's how I roll. All right, so the game is called Shuffle Your Buns.
Yes! I love shuffle your butt.
I am glad. So the way this game
Have you
works,
ever been on couches before?
it is a little trickier, I'll admit. But you guys are all junior high age. Your brain capacity should be able to handle
Have we played
the
that before?
differences. We have, but whether you were here or not, I don't know.
Was it recently?
No.
A few weeks ago?
No.
Months ago. Have we ever played
No.
it? So, wait, can
I don't know. Alright, so the way it works is this. We're going to select one of you to start the game. I'll ask you to stand up from your seat. That will create an empty seat in the room. We're not using this couch until other people arrive, and we need the extra seat. So for now, look around. These are the only seats that are available, is the ones that people are sitting in right now. For the course of the game, these are the only seats you can sit in. So once you stand up, that creates an empty seat. Your goal, you win if you can sit back down. That's all you have to do. Sit back down in an empty seat that is part of the game. Now, the people who are not standing up have a job to do, and that is to sit in the empty seat. However, not just anybody can sit in the empty seat. It has to be a person who is on one or the other side of the empty seat. So let's say, for instance, that I ask you to stand up. There we go. Creates an empty seat. Now, you're going to stand in the middle of the room facing away from your empty seat. Then we'll say go. Then you have to try and sit back down. And as you race over there as fast as you possibly can, one of you two has to sit in that seat now, because you're next to it. Now there's a new empty seat. Now one of you two has to sit in that empty seat. Now one of you two has to sit in that. Now one of you two has to sit in that empty seat. Now one of you two. There we go. And you two. One of you two. So it can switch directions at any time. Now here's where it gets interesting. If you don't make it all the way over there to that empty seat before he makes it all the way over there to that empty seat, you get stuck in the middle. The person who failed to sit down in the empty seat is the one who gets stuck in the middle. Does that make sense?
Well, wait a minute. Couldn't he just go to that seat? Sit right there?
Well, now he can. Yes.
Yeah.
But either he or Jaden could now sit in that empty
So,
seat.
so the person that goes from here is at a serious disadvantage.
Serious disadvantage.
Okay.
But as the game progresses, it usually goes in one direction more than it will go in the other direction. The person who is at the disadvantage will change.
Yeah, and it could be anywhere.
This just creates an opening for this person to actually finally win, where sometimes they might not get to otherwise. You can go ahead and have a seat, sir. Who would like to actually start the game for a real round, not a practice round? Is it Denali? I didn't know your name yet. Cool.
This is my second time.
I don't know a lot of people's names, and they've been here a while. It's bad. But I have short-term memory loss, so I still love you guys, whether I know your name or not.
Do you know my name?
You're Dallas.
Yeah.
You're Denali. You're Audrey.
Yeah. Do you know her
You're
name?
doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Michaela, right?
Do you know
No?
your wife's name?
Don't do that to me! I tried so hard.
Denali, start the game.
Denali, you can start the game.
Daniel.
Come on up. When you guys get trapped in the middle, please introduce yourselves for all those people who might not know you. and then you can get going. So first you have to start away from your seat, and you say hi, I'm Denali to the no one over
Hi,
there.
I'm Denali.
Isn't that weird?
Hi, Denali. I'm saying it to you.
Oh, there you go. Hi, Denali. I'm Jaden. You guys can all say hi, Denali.
Hi, Denali.
Okay. Don't forget that this opening is so people can get in and out, but you've got to move to that seat when it's empty. Likewise, you've got to move to that seat when it's empty. Don't forget to bridge this gap quickly. Okay, ready, Denali?
Yeah.
On your marks, get set, go!
I'm just
And there it is.
Yeah.
Jamie's in the middle.
I kind of understand. Okay.
Now there's
Is it okay if they're like following the line of people? Do you have to stay in the middle because
Yeah.
that seems okay?
No, you can follow. You can
Okay,
be
so
hovering
I can
around
just
where
be
you
You
like,
have to start
I
in the
can be
middle.
like this, like
Yeah.
if they're going.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, that makes
Alright.
sense.
So just introduce yourself.
Wait,
and
did
then
I
we'll
not
say
strap?
Okay, hi, I am Jamie.
go. Go!
Hi, Jamie.
Go, Jamie, go.
Run! Wait, why did you tell me to run? James terrible at running.
Wait, what?
Look around, Jamie.
Hey,
This
right
one's a
here.
2. This one's a 2.
Okay.
Good job, Jamie.
So
That's
this
you.
This is,
That would be you in the middle.
This is incredible.
All right, so you got to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
You're supposed to face away from your seat, not like the whole group at all
Oh,
times.
okay.
Now you're
No,
facing
like
towards
face
it.
that way. Andrew, you look at me.
No, still. There it is.
Yeah.
Go! And now you try and find a seat.
Ow! Again. Ow!
That was it.
That's Michaela. Stop bouncing on me now.
Everybody.
Gio, move down one. Savage, go. Savage, go. Stop saying savage. Go. Why? Where I hit you. I can't go to Vito.
Beautiful. Dallas, you're stuck in the middle.
How?
Because you didn't move it to block the seat.
What?
You were the last one who should have moved and you didn't move.
Hi, Dallas. Hi. I didn't move.
You're in the middle.
I was in this seat. Hi,
Yep.
Dallas. Nice to
And
meet
you
you.
should have moved over
there.
this game takes a lot.
Wow,
Right,
yeah,
Gio,
good
take
job,
it.
Dallas.
Like you have to be watching
Hi,
every
my name's
video.
Dallas.
Hi,
Hi,
Dallas.
Dallas. What I understand about this game is I'm
Liar.
Hey.
Hi, Dallas.
Hi, Dallas.
Go! I don't know what it is.
Dallas.
That's a 3-person count.
He didn't skew number.
You should not have moved.
So I guess you
Where's this
Whoa, 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 Congratulations.
You played
What?
Andrew's back in the middle.
Okay, you
What ones are too injured to
That's
shuffle
what I'm
anymore?
saying. Andrew's back in the middle.
Andrew, you back in the middle.
I'm out here.
Alright guys, we didn't go. We didn't go. Stop. Stop. Oh my.
Jump back there.
James.
No.
Okay.
Shut up!
On your mark.
Taylor, no!
Oh wait, you should introduce yourself again. in case
Oh,
you-
hi, I'm Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Go.
Hi, Andrew. You right there.
Where you
Dude.
Done.
Move.
I'm done, Sam.
Yeah.
Stop saying
Yeah.
Wyatt, you're up.
Yeah, wait. Settle. Settle. Alright, so there's 2 empties right now because someone went to the restroom. So I'm just going to jump in for a sec.
Hi, I'm Wyatt.
You gotta face away from the empty.
I'm Bill.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
like
have
that.
a
I'm
conversation.
On your marks.
I know that guy.
Get set. Go.
Oh, yeah.
Nice mess of both. Hi, Gio.
Oh, Gio, you're in.
I would assume Gio is now in.
Which face?
So first tell us your name.
Bro. No.
Which face have to go this way?
Oh, away from the empty seat. See, there's the empty one right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. So now tell us what your name is.
Hi, I'm Giovanni.
Hi, Giovanni.
Hi, Giovanni.
Alright, go.
Hi, Gio. You gotta run.
You gotta try and get into the empty seat, man. Take
Take
it, Gio. Take it. Alright, you are stuck in the middle.
I think this
Oh,
is the
this
easiest
is
one.
It is. It is the
The
easiest
only
one.
thing.
Alright, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Audrey.
Hi, Audrey.
She's just gonna go.
Go.
Yeah. This is so hard to
Alright, get it, Audrey.
She didn't get it.
Wait, Daniel.
Hi,
All
Daniel.
right, you guys gotta actually stop moving for just a second so I know which way to face. All right, go.
Great job, Alex.
The empty's right next to Jamie, so face away from that.
So, I'm Alex.
Go!
Wrong way, Cody.
All right, so you can face away from the empty.
Hi, my name's Cody.
Hi, Cody. Go!
Yes,
No, Cody, you did not get that.
You guys gotta move.
Giovanni. Wow.
Yeah, you barely.
I know, it's like turning
Bye-bye.
Logan.
And Logan. All right, stop,
Okay.
stop.
Why are you
I can run up right now.
Oh my gosh, stop. Okay,
Okay,
face
wipe
away
that.
from the empty.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm I haven't really
You're
decided.
Logan.
yet. I'm Logan.
Hi, Logan.
What?
Here he goes again.
You haven't decided.
I'm Logan.
Oh, hi, Logan.
Hi.
Go!
Seats right over there.
We're going to.
Wrong way, one. Go the other way. Go the other way. No! I wanted to. That's the wrong way.
And you're stuck in the middle.
Don't go.
The rules are very clear. Either person can sit in the empty.
Daniel, is that your phone?
Apparently that ejected from my pocket.
It went into the couch. I was gonna take it.
Cell phones in the
Fold
pocket.
it, fold it. From the couches. All right, introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm Audrey.
Hi, Audrey.
Hi.
Go.
What's your name?
Hi, Audrey.
What?
Jaden is in the middle.
I was confused.
Surprise.
Hey, wait a minute.
Looks like he's staying here.
Logan could have,
Hi, Peter.
but the way it was moving last, it's Jaden's fault.
Okay.
I want Jaden to get him.
Plus Jaden has a minute.
Okay, now I understand.
Okay, introduce yourself.
I'm Peter Dallas, but my real name's Jade.
What up, Peter Jaden?
Hi, Peter. Hi, Peter.
We love you, Jaden.
Hi,
I didn't-
Harry.
Jaden, I didn't say. Jaden, I didn't say go here. Jaden, I didn't say go here. Jaden, I didn't say go here.
You can tell I'm great at this game.
Yeah. Ready on your marks. Get set. Go.
You never introduced yourself.
There it is. All right.
Now you're in it.
Still get my own couch.
The slow eventual demise. of
Right?
Jaden.
Hi,
Nice.
Peter. Failure of life.
Very nice.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hey.
Why is everyone Peter today?
All right, introduce yourself.
I'm technically your Peter.
Hi,
At
Nathan.
the same time.
All right, Nathan, turn your back to the empty seat.
Yeah.
On your marks, get set, go.
Shame it. Cody. What? Go, 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 go. No, Peter, you can do it. Peter. No, you can do it. That's amazing.
I love how we heard him coming the whole way and just couldn't get it.
Oh, Romeo, dude, get back in here. I was just holding your spot for you.
Oh, and he goes back there or something.
Hello. Say hello. Okay. This is shuffle game. I am Alex. Cool.
Go!
I'm male. What? I didn't say start yet. Wait. Yeah, get back
So,
in Alex,
Leslie was running this direction. Romeo, you're actually stuck in the middle now.
Oh yeah.
I
I'll
like
show
that
you.
face.
He's
Right
just like,
there.
what's that?
Just a smile.
You're stuck in the middle right here.
I think that's that smile of Bliss figures.
Yes.
This on purpose.
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay.
Gio, you're not in the middle.
Oh,
Romeo,
you just
I was trying to just follow this way.
Yep.
Trying to follow and
Say your
Say
name.
your name.
hi, say your name.
Say
Just
hi.
say hi. Say your
Yeah,
name.
just say
Just
hi.
say your
Hi,
name.
Romeo.
Hi,
Romeo.
Hi, Peter.
Now you're
And
gonna
then
go
now-
for the open spot. Everybody's gonna shuffle in.
And then
here.
you have to find the open spot.
Go for that. Go for any empty seat.
And no!
Try to find the slow.
Try to get an open spot like this. If there's an open spot. Okay,
Yeah,
try
right
to
there,
get it.
right there.
Okay.
Spot right here.
Right here.
There's 3 people on this couch. Just move there. Giovanni. Gio. I'm telling you to go there yet.
Alright, thanks, Gio.
Shut up, Giovanni.
Like, you have to run over there fast.
Okay, Gio, let's do it, man.
I was trying to.
No, I
help.
know you did good. Thanks for helping him.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Yeah. Let's do it, Gio. Okay. Ready?
Hi, my name is Gio.
All right, we're going.
Go, Wyatt!
Wyatt, go!
No! Yeah, Michaela, move!
What?
No, you can't do that. It's cheating.
How is that
Like, you
cheating?
just run.
It's not cheating. Wyatt, you're totally stuck in the middle. That wasn't cheating at all.
What?
Wait, I never said go? No. Oh, that's totally cheating.
What?
Jamie, you're a natural. So good.
All right. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Jamie.
I think I get it.
Go.
Hi, Peter.
No, go back.
Good job.
That was too fast.
Everybody find your final spot. We're going to do some worship now.
Okay.
Cody. Sorry, Alex.
Audrey, come turn the stage.
You got the
Turn
same
your phone and maybe like ring it off.
There you go. Have fun.
It's this one. It's Sam. We saw all of your stories. Yeah. Okay. I want to sing.
Alrighty, well, I'll pray and we'll get started, you guys. Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for this night. I pray that you would bless our songs now, Lord, as we sing to you. Thank you for Jesus. Thank you that he's in our life. Thank you that we are cleansed through what he's done and that you accept us, Lord, that you don't just accept us, but we're your children. Your word tells us you love us and you like us. You made everything about us, and I pray that this time would be satisfying to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Water you turn into wine. Water you turn into wine. You open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. There's none like you. Into the darkness and into the darkness you shine. And out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. There's none like you. We're gonna sing Our God is Greater. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? What can stand against? Our God is greater, and our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, and our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. We bow our hearts, we bend our knees. Oh Spirit, come make us humble. We turn our eyes from evil things. Oh Lord, we cast down our idols. And give us clean hands, and give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. And give us clean hands, and give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob. We bow our hearts, we bend our knees. Oh Spirit, come make us humble. We turn our eyes. We turn our eyes from evil things. Oh Lord, we cast down our idols. And give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob, and seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob, and seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob. Lord, thank you once again for this time. We pray that you'd speak to us through your word now, and thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Jamie. Audrey, Alice. Can we get the lights back on in the room here, Mike? Thank you. So great.
It's the ghost.
You want the sound?
And
I'm sorry, man. I didn't take that amount of time.
Should a Christian
This
use
took a
social
while, but
media?
A birdie with a ghost
Alrighty.
and other mobile device.
And other mobile apps.
Alright,
So that's the Facebook Messenger. Oh, boys and girls. Tonight we're talking about social media. Bring it down now. Alrighty. Let's talk social media. Opening question. What age do you think parents should allow their kids to get a social media account?
when they're born.
No. You guys raise your hands. That's how this works. What age?
I think when they're like become a preteen, which is like 12.
Okay, preteen. Yeah. 16. Anyone else? First grade. Yeah. 2. Age 2. Yes. 16. Anyone else?
0 months.
Oh yeah.
When they're capable to make good decisions.
When they're capable of making good decisions.
That's it.
Accept it and put it on speaker.
No, it's just an alarm.
Alarm.
No fun conversation. I could have faked it though. I could have answered the phone. That'd have been great. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, age 100.
He raised his hand.
Age 100.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Still alive.
They're still alive.
Still alive.
And their fingers can tap screens.
Yes.
Then
Then.
their parents who would be
Yeah.
100 and what?
40.
Never? Okay. Anyone else? Any age? Okay, so let me just ask you guys this. Do you think that it'd be good for like a 3-year-old to have a social media account?
Oh yeah. No. If he doesn't use it.
If he doesn't use it? I feel like that defeats the whole purpose of the question. What do you guys think about this little girl? She is a Instagram fashionista. She has tons of people who follow her account, looking to see how she dresses up. But this is the thing, guys. She's 3. She doesn't buy the outfits she dresses up in. She doesn't even pick the outfits she dresses up in. Her mom does.
Does it say teen on Instagram?
But supposedly this is the 3-year-old's account. This is not her mom's account because her mom has her own account, so it's different. All right. So second question: do you guys think that like a 7-year-old needs social media? Yeah.
Nobody needs it because social media isn't like a necessity for people. Technology at all isn't like needed.
Okay.
Because people lived before technology was there.
I don't know what you're talking about. The world started in the 1970s. There was nothing before that.
1970s.
I'm joking. That's me being sarcastic. We don't know each other very well. Sarcasm doesn't come off very well.
I
Okay.
sarcasm too. So
Good. Okay.
I was just saying, like, if the question was worded differently,
Then maybe you could answer it differently.
because nobody.
This is my
needs it.
challenge. And I don't mean to say you're wrong. I just want to make sure you guys really think through this. Check out this girl. Over in the Middle East, in the midst of the war that was being fueled by ISIS, still going on, and she uses social media to post political opinions and political requests. She uses social media as a 7-year-old to try and get her opinion out there, to get her story out there, to try and tell of her daily life walking to school hoping a bomb doesn't go off. That's what she uses social media for. Yeah, she's 7. If you guys don't
Wait, that
know,
makes no sense.
Assad is a ruler over in the Middle East. Putin
Syria.
is the ruler of
Oh,
Russia.
What if he
And so yeah,
knows?
grammatically that doesn't make any
I thought it
sense.
was saying Putin. Like.
No.
Putin
Grammatically, I know it
without
doesn't
a
make any
G.
sense. But she's 7. We'll let that slide, okay? The heart behind it is
Yeah, I'm
pretty
sure
good.
she
It's
wrote it.
please Assad and Putin stop the bombing, because these are the two guys who are basically owning the bombs and allowing them to be dropped. They're the ones who have the bombs. They're not the soldiers necessarily who are doing the bomb dropping, but
That's
they
questionable.
are supplying the bombs. Yeah.
What if both Assad and Putin? What if they were both followers?
Of her on
Yeah.
Facebook or wherever she's got her account,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing, and that might actually cause some kind of positive feedback. I don't know, but because I don't have access to their accounts. They probably have aliases. I don't even know if they have real accounts. All right, so What about we go a little bit older? Maybe hitting a few you guys.
Yeah.
Do you think 11-year-olds need social media?
They don't know.
No.
Okay. So real quick, just a quick show of hands. All the yeses, raise your hand. 11-year-olds need social media. Raise your hand.
They're using it for.
No one's listening.
Wait, 11?
Or no one thinks yes. Does an 11-year-old need social media? Raise your hand.
Nobody needs social
Okay.
media.
Does an 11-year-old not need social media? Raise your hand. Okay.
When
Okay.
I was 11, my mom
All right,
was still
all right,
planning
all right.
play dates for me.
What about this guy? This guy had a social media account
Name
and
is Bill.
actually made a relationship with a girl who was 13, and they became boyfriend and girlfriend on social media. And eventually they got to meet, and after they met, then she started bullying him through social media and getting all of his friends against him on social media.
She
Yeah.
sounds like a good I wasn't sure if this, I don't think it's the same story, I don't think it's the same people, but actually I'm pretty sure they're older, but this girl bullied, she was dating him online also, and she bullied him into killing himself.
That's actually him.
Oh, that's the same person?
He was 11. Yeah. All right, so follow-up question. Does a 15-year-old need social media?
Nobody needs social
Yeah, they situation and apps.
All right, so 15, we're getting close to the yes. Yeah?
Wait, do you have some truth on there?
I think it really depends on their maturity, because there is a 15-year-old that his mother did not want him having a phone. He got a hold of it,
Oh.
and then he got a Facebook account, and he dated someone, and then his friends thought it'd be funny to prank him and say that his girlfriend killed himself, and then he killed himself because he didn't want to live without her.
Wow. That sounds like fun.
Right?
This is a fake 15-year-old on social media. This is just Google
He has a nice
images
smile.
stolen. These aren't even the same guy in both photos. They just look alike. And this is a total fake account. This is Jason Biazzo. He doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's
And it was made by a guy in his 20s to try and teach some kids a lesson. And so this fake 15-year-old started starting up conversations with random girls who were all under 15, 14, 13, 12. Now he went to these girls' parents first. They had public listings of their friends, and he figured out who their parents were, approached their parents and said, "Can I do a social experiment with your daughter?" to see if she would go meet up with a stranger she's never actually met in person before. And the parents were like, "Yeah, my daughter's way too smart for that. She'd never do that." And so this 20-something guy continues to pretend to be a 15-year-old guy, and he pretends he was like, from Florida, just moved up to New York City, doesn't have many friends. You want to meet up and hang out sometime. And so one by one, he gets all these girls to go meet up with him. They don't realize that their parents are with him. And so one of the girls, he actually pulls up in a white panel-sided van
Yeah, I
with
saw
no
video of
windows.
this.
And I kid you not, he talked her, a 20-year-old man showing up pretending to have been a 15-year-old online, doesn't look anything like the 15-year-old online, got the girl to get in the van.
Oh my god.
And the parents
And he
went
didn't
back
have to like
see-
physically force her, he just talked her into it. And the cool thing was he's not really a predator. He's not really trying to hurt anyone.
There are people
Trying
who
to
are.
help.
But there are. And so interestingly, yeah, even up to 15, you could still get messed around with. That's not really my heart in what we're going to talk about tonight. I just wanted to try and cover, is there a proper age? And I would say that this 3-year-old isn't using social media for great purposes. This 7-year-old is, the 11-year-old didn't, and the 15-year-old, I don't know, that's kind of a 50-50. Because it's like a fake scenario, and the fake one was good, but then the real side of that isn't good. And so really what it comes down to is the age has nothing to do with it. It really has nothing to do with it. If the 7-year-old wanted to, she could use, in Syria, use Facebook to post her outfit and say, "Don't you guys like my outfit?" That same 7-year-old in the same life situation could misuse social media just the same, but instead she's using it for something cool. So the age really isn't a factor in social media. Everything else is, though. So I want to show you guys a cool graph. Oh, no, wait. First I have a question. This is for all you guys, and I want you all to be as honest as you possibly can and answer. I've got 3 sheets of paper up here, yellow, blue, and green. And I've got 3 sets of questions up here. And I want you to grab a sheet of paper based on which category you fall into. So if you don't have any social media accounts and you don't want any social media accounts, go grab a green sheet right now. If you don't have any social media accounts but you do want social media accounts, go grab a yellow sheet right now. And if you already have social media accounts of some kind, I don't care which social network it is or which app it is, but if you have any of those, grab a blue sheet of paper. Make sure you get a pencil too. We may run out and you'll have to borrow pencils after someone else is done with theirs.
I don't know where.
Alright, so do you have like a Facebook account or a YouTube account?
I don't have a phone.
Change the big fat mind.
Do you have anything like on your phone?
From our house, we don't have a computer. We
So old.
But it's okay.
So the answer is no. So you would get a yellow or green. So here's my question. Do you want a social media account? Do you want like a YouTube or a Facebook or any of those kinds of things?
Like my mom's phone don't has a no smartphone, no anything.
Yeah. So but that's my question. How do you feel about that? Do you wish you had those things? Or are you okay that you don't have those things?
Because my own mother says I want to, but I don't want to.
You don't want to.
But my mind.
I'm not sure how
You kind of do. Alright, well, it's your choice. You can pick a green or you can pick a yellow. The green is if you don't want it. The yellow is if you do.
I don't have the. I already have the blue pencil.
So yeah, I do like a green.
Or yellow.
Yeah, do green or yellow. Pick one of those. Grab a pencil. All right, guys, go ahead. Just number your questions. You don't have to write the question out. Just put a number and then stick your answer next to
I
it.
don't know how to answer number one. Why do I have it?
So why do you have social media?
For the heck of it.
If that's his answer, he can write that. What's your answer? Why do you have social media? That can be the answer, but think about it a little longer. See if you can come up with something.
Oh, it's just a picture.
Here's a different way to say it. Why did you want it in the first place?
Oh, okay.
It's slightly different. It's almost the same.
What are we writing?
You're green, so yours is going to be number one. Why don't you want social media? And then number two, what do you see in those who have it and use it? What do you
It's
see
the
in those
honest
people?
answer, isn't it good answer?
If you change your mind and you do want it, then just go grab a yellow sheet of paper. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so now you guys don't have to put your names on these. They're 100% anonymous.
I'm all.
So you, oh yeah, you gotta sharpen that, man. It's dead.
Can we like turn them in somewhere?
Oh yeah, when you're done writing your answers, come put them up here on the clock.
Now it's not there.
Okay, good. So what we're gonna do? You're gonna write a 1.
Sometimes this looks to me is sometimes we do
Like a line?
line or
Yeah,
an
fix it. Go ahead, you make it however you want.
or an I. So I personally do this.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Like
Okay, so
that
now,
our people know.
next to the 1, you're supposed to answer this question. Okay, here's the question. What or why don't you want social media? So what are the reasons you can think of you don't want that stuff?
About the
Like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those different apps. Is there any reason why you don't want them?
one thing. I don't know like.
Well said, Wyatt.
All I know is like I heard wait. I don't know if I really know about certain news about. I don't know, but all I think of I don't remember about the same news, but all I have in my head is just like
Oh, like bullying.
I'm very sorry. We talked about like at school.
Yeah. So you could write that for your answer. I don't want social media. For some reason, because I could get bullied. I could get bullied. That just goes next to the 1. Alright guys, as you finish off both answers, take your card, come stick it up on the clock up here on the table. And leaders, you're welcome to answer the question. So just figure out which category you fit into. I kind of can guess for most of you.
Oh, we're supposed to put our name on there?
No, it's totally not. Yeah, even if you did put your name, I'm still not going to tell people who wrote what.
Okay.
Oh, that's so many people who already have it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who already have it. The color is our easy peasy statistical analysis.
Like,
Yeah.
what?
Say that again, like you answered both questions.
9 blue and then Thank Ted Blue.
Yeah, that's
Alrighty.
I'll go with that. You just put one in and something up there at the top.
11.
What's up?
I counted how many blues. 11.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of blues.
No, wait. I think it's 12.
Now, if you really want to become internet famous, you have to flip the can and get it to land again.
Yeah, wait, do we write our names?
You don't have to. No, I'm not going to read names.
Daniel,
Yep.
this is how I get internet famous.
Oh, there you go. Of course, of course. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
I'm eating a pizza sandwich.
Wait.
Hey Daniel, what do you know anybody who's chaos?
Oh, you can write that. You can literally write that.
That's me. You've gotten good at that. You don't need that mask anymore.
YouTube, there's,
Oh, man.
you know how there's like doctors and stuff. Great. So for Belgian, extension.
I don't know if you're laughing.
So I thought of this joke too, to get the domain youtube.me. That would be
And then, do you know anybody who uses that stuff already?
Wow.
Have you seen anybody who uses that?
What's your favorite band of all time?
He's joking.
Yes, we do.
That's all he wrote. Gio tried hard to do that. Alright, so Gio, have you seen anybody else who uses that stuff?
Yeah,
Like it's
Yeah, so
well, here, let me do this because we gotta keep moving. Can I get one of my leaders to help Gio answer number 2?
Dang, Alex is just being
So like, when you see kids who use Facebook or YouTube or any of those social media stuff, have you noticed anything about them bothering you?
Who brought a horse into church?
Can you stop and finish writing number 2 so I can keep going? Because we're running out of time.
Why did you get
Hi, Alex. Thanks for the present.
Alright guys, here's a quick infographic I made for you guys today. These are based on monthly usage numbers. So this is not total user accounts, this is based on how many people actively use these sites or these apps on a monthly basis. And just to give you an idea of scope, of size, Facebook this year just crossed over the 2 billion mark.
what?
2 billion monthly users. 2 billion monthly users. Huh? We're at 7.5 right now.
Wait, Facebook, Instagram.
Say again?
I said Facebook, Instagram, and we should have been.
Facebook bought Instagram a while back. They own it
Wait,
now.
what's that big green one?
I know, everyone's like, wait, what?
What's that big green one?
That's a really good question. The really big green one is everyone.
No, it's just me.
And so everyone's a little bit bigger than the people who exist in social media.
Daniel, where's Google Plus?
Just a little
It didn't rank. It's too far down the chain. I'd have to shrink the font too far, and it just tweaked my OCD, so I didn't add it. The one that struck me, Jeremiah, was actually how small Snapchat is.
I know, right?
I didn't see that coming.
I thought it would be like pictures should be bigger.
No, Snapchat grew really fast in its early days, and it is not growing as fast as it used to. It's going really slow now. Yeah. Why is YouTube so small? Because you don't have to have an account to watch videos. This is monthly users who are signed in. That's what they're tracking. So yeah, plenty of people just go watch YouTube videos. Plenty of people see embedded YouTube videos. That doesn't mean they're a monthly user. Yeah. That's why it's so small. It's actually moving backwards now. They tried changing their name to like get up higher. They tried to become a camera app and less of a social app that's mostly a camera. And I don't know if that's gonna work or not. We'll see. But just an FYI, social media couldn't really be considered normal yet.
Or Pinterest.
Huh?
I feel bad for Pinterest.
Same deal with Pinterest. A lot of people are on Pinterest without an account. They just kind of browse Pinterest.
I love
You
it.
have to log
That's
in.
fine. You can love Pinterest.
So much.
Everyone in my family.
I
The
spend
point
Pinterest
of the
more than
infographic.
half my time on it.
I also took off all the Chinese ones. The Chinese ones, there's 3 Chinese ones that rank at this level. 2 of them are right underneath Facebook and or Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, and then one of them is right above Instagram, right below YouTube. So there's like 3 Chinese ones that I didn't put on here just because you guys probably don't even know what they are.
WhatsApp too.
Could that be because they have most of the population?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah.
You should put a big fidget
Most of
spinner
these are international, and the Chinese ones are mostly just Chinese. So it's rather impressive that they rank with international websites that are used all over the world. That's a pretty impressive thing. But that's not what I'm meant to show you here. What I'm trying to show you guys is that the group of people that we call everyone on this planet is much larger than the people who use social media. And so right now, most people don't use social media. As much as Facebook has 2 billion monthly users, what's interesting is if you took the total number of everyone who uses any social network, that doesn't even approach 3 billion. Now, if you add all these yellow circles up and the ones I couldn't fit on here, it actually gets up to 10 billion. But that's actually more than there are people on the planet. And what it really comes down to is that most people who have a Facebook don't just have a Facebook.
They have more than one.
Well, not more than one Facebook, but they have a Facebook and they have a YouTube and they're on Messenger. Because guys, that's the weird thing. This circle isn't the same size as that circle. But if you have Facebook, you have Facebook Messenger. It's all built in.
Then how?
So what we're talking about is monthly usage, and most of the people who are on Facebook are also on Messenger, are also on YouTube, are also on Instagram, are also. So when people dive in, they don't just get inside one of these circles. They're inside somewhere between 7 to 10 of these circles.
It's like
2,
one
hey,
leg's in
that's
one
light
part.
Well, I'm
usage.
also in Messenger and YouTube.
One's in
Those
one
don't
part.
count to me.
So you're actually in 4.
Well, actually, 5 because of Pinterest.
See, there's where I'm going with this. You don't have to be a heavy user to suddenly represent multiple circles. But truth be told, it's still not normal to be in one of these yellow circles. It's normal to be in the green circle. There's a sadder statistic though, and that's this circle. This yellow circle is still bigger than all those yellow circles by far, and this represents the number of people who probably don't know Jesus Christ, and that circle could be bigger. This is a very rough estimate, and this is only based on people who say that they're Christians versus people who say that they're not Christians. That's all that circle is based on. Because I can't read people's hearts. I can't read people's minds. I don't have another way to come up with a number. God knows what the number is. I don't have a clue. We can only guess. All right, so now we get to some harder questions. And before we answer them, I'd like you guys to know what the Bible says about this stuff. So, look up on the screen, read with me. We're kind of jumping around in the 10th chapter of 1 Corinthians, so I just put it on the screen for you guys today. So you have to try and keep up with me. So 2 different sections here from chapter 10 of 1 Corinthians, okay? So section number 1, it says, you say, I'm allowed to do anything. But not everything is good for you. You say, I'm allowed to do anything. But not everything is beneficial. Don't be concerned for your own good, but for the good of others. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Don't give offense to Jews or Gentiles or to the church of God. I too try to please everyone in everything I do. I don't just do what is best for me, I do what is best for others so that many may be saved. Now this right here is a guiding principle. That's what we call it, a guiding principle. It's not a hard, fast rule. It's not a law. It's not like Paul was trying to rewrite the 10 Commandments with Christian commandments. But what he's giving you is a really good test. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to apply this test to social media. So, first off, social media is permissible. It falls into that category of things that are permissible. Does anybody here know what the word permissible means?
It means something. I know that.
Anybody?
It's
You
in
can
the
guess.
dictionary.
Yeah, that's nice. I asked if you knew what it meant. Anybody?
You gave me
No? Anybody leader? Oh, you got it? Maybe?
Like, maybe okay.
Maybe. Okay. That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah.
Like in the
I know what it
middle.
means, but I completely forgot what it means.
Then why did you raise your hand exactly? Yes.
Because I know what it
I'm
means.
just guessing, but like maybe something that is good.
Okay. Yes?
No.
Allowable. It's allowable. How about cookies, guys?
No.
Are cookies
Those are against the law.
It's not a
are cookies a sin?
Yes.
Is it a sin to eat a cookie?
The one
It has
Yes.
chocolate. It's not
Now,
sin.
now wait a second.
on a diet.
Is a cookie good for you?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know the reason why.
Yes,
It depends on if you're
It's
starving
not a
or
trick
not.
question.
What kind of cookie?
It's not a trick question.
Chocolate?
It's just that cookies are not in the absolutely good or in the absolutely bad category. There is a third category. The things in the middle. I usually call them gray issues. It's not a black or white issue. It's not a yes or no. It's permissible. It's allowable, as Natalie put it. That's a really good word for it, okay? It doesn't mean it's okay. Okay means a little bit more than permissible. So when your mom says, yeah, I guess you can have a cookie, she's saying, yeah, I guess you could have a cookie. She doesn't just go ahead and say, yes, you should have cookies.
My mom does.
Your mom does say that?
Because I don't eat
Interesting
that much.
parents.
Bakes them,
Like,
you're supposed
she's just
to eat
like,
them.
eat whatever you want.
Like Daniel.
If I had you guys come here for an overnighter and the only food I got you was candy, and it wasn't Halloween,
Expect
I'll
that.
eat.
That'll be good for
Yes,
like
we're not coming to help. I'm not
Five
helping
minutes.
it.
my leaders wouldn't show up. They'd be like, no, Daniel, we're out. You're by yourself. I'm not
Really?
dealing with that. Why?
I'll join
Because
you if you
a
have
little
donuts.
candy won't hurt you.
It doesn't.
But if I just sit here, have all the candy you want, as much as you can cram in your mouth. Girls who went to camp, what happens?
You want real
I don't know.
You want real
What happened, girls, when you ate
You get
just
sick
a
of
bunch of
candy.
candy?
You get really eat salad every day.
What happened? Do you remember, Caitlin, when the girls just ate a bunch of candy, nothing but candy?
We wanted real food.
Yeah, sick. Did they keep all the candy?
Wait.
She donated the candy.
I think she donated the candy back.
Yep. You weren't even there. I know, but I'm making my
All right.
hypothesis.
The point is this: social media falls into the permissible category. It's not all bad. It's not all good. And so then the Bible gives you some advice on these things, because lots of things fall into this gray category. They have to have none of the following. They have to have the following not be true, and then they can be called permissible. So here's your three. They cannot be identified in the Bible as a sin. They cannot inherently be linked with any immoral behavior.
What?
They cannot be inherently linked with any immoral behavior. Inherently means it's kind of built in.
Yeah.
Part of the thing itself is linked to immoral behavior. Then it's not a gray area anymore. Suddenly it's now just a total sin. So it can't be inherently linked with any immoral behavior. And the third one, it can't always be bad for your holiness or your growth as a Christian. If something slows down your growth as a Christian, if something keeps you from being as holy as you would have been without it, then it's not permissible. It's not in the gray area anymore. Okay, it passes out of it. It's now either in the black or the white. If one of these three is true, that thing is a sin for you. And it's a sin as soon as you recognize it. And so I'm sorry to say tonight, some of you guys might realize things you thought were okay are a sin. This is called conviction. It's one of my many jobs. All right, so let's walk through this one by one. Let's ask these questions. So first off, is the use of social media identified as a sin in the Bible?
No. Yeah.
Think about it for a second.
Depends on what it's used for.
No, that's not what it says.
It's permissible.
Is social media identified as a sin in the Bible?
No.
No, because social
No.
media was
The answer is actually no. Is social media inherently linked with any immoral behavior?
It could
Is social media for immoral behavior?
Oh,
Is that
no.
what it's for?
No.
like the original purpose.
Just is that what it's for? It's a hard question to answer with specifics added on.
Well, some of them.
Okay.
Depends on which ones we're talking
So you
about.
guys keep doing these depends. That's not how you answer
Yes
these
or
questions.
no?
Is it inherently, that word, if you're not familiar with it, means, is it built into social media that what you will do with it has to be immoral?
No. It's a yes or no
Thank you.
question.
No, it is not built into social media that whatever you do with it must be immoral. It's not like your account gets canceled if you're not mean enough. That's not how it works. All right. Is it always bad for your holiness? Okay, that's you being a Christian who does what Jesus says, or your growth, that's becoming a better Christian, getting closer to Jesus. Is it always bad for those things?
No.
Is social media always bad for you as a Christian trying to become a better, stronger Christian.
Well, if you took away the always, then it would be a yes.
And that's the point. The always is there for a purpose. Okay? You guys keep saying these maybes, these depends, that's what the gray area is. What we're doing here is we're ruling it out of the complete and utter always sin area. So then obviously then your depends and maybes and who's and what they're going to do with it. That's exactly what the gray area is for. Is for things where it could go either way depending on what you actually do with it. For instance, is a bow and arrow a sin to own?
No.
Can you use a bow and arrow to sin?
Yeah.
Okay, so a bow and arrow is neutral until you do something with it. It is in the gray area. It's permissible. Yeah.
It's never wrong to use the Bible, so it's not in the gray area.
I didn't say everything was in the gray
Unless you
area.
I was gonna say, I was just
Okay,
I know, I was-
not everything is in the gray area.
But you could use
But
the
Elijah,
Bible. You
I
could
can misuse the Bible if I really
Bible.
try
That's what
to.
she just said.
Okay.
You start at somebody's head.
This is misusing.
I've watched kids take a Bible and throw it at someone. So, just saying.
Or you could be like,
All right. So let's dig in a little bit deeper though, because Paul doesn't say if something's in the gray area, then it's yours. Have at it. It's a free thing. You can do whatever you want now. That's not what the gray area is for. That's not what permissible means. Like we said with cookies and candy, just because it's not directly a sin does not mean you should live on a diet of cookies or a diet of candy. That will hurt you. And so the same, once you're into the gray area and you're talking about something that can go good or go bad, you have to know what is the good way to use something like that. What is the wrong way to use something like that? So, he says that in this category of permissible activities, you've got to check, because he warns you that even a permissible activity can have unintended consequences. Sometimes around Halloween, we get stomach aches and we don't really know why. We weren't thinking through our actions. Likewise, when you take up skateboarding, you're probably not considering having wrist pain for the rest of your life. That's not something you're thinking about when you take up skateboarding. But that is one of the possible outcomes from skateboarding. Yes.
wrist pain?
When you take up skateboarding, are you perfect at skateboarding?
No.
Not
So what happens when you're not perfect at skateboarding?
You hurt yourself.
And then you land on your
Yes.
hands. Well, hands don't break as easy as wrists.
Oh, you mean like when you fall?
Yeah.
I fall on my butt.
Well, good. That's a little bit sturdier.
I fall on my face. I remember this.
All right. So, did you finish? You put it right there.
I don't fall into like.
Good. Nice and compact. Very efficient use of space. All right. Shh. So the point is this: when you take up social media and you start engaging in it, you start posting or you start reading or you do anything with it at all, you have to understand there may be consequences you don't even know about. There may be consequences you didn't think of in advance. That's what Paul's saying. When you find something that's in the gray area, give it thought. Don't let it just walk into your life automatically. Don't just assume because someone else is doing it and they're not dead yet that means you're going to be fine. Skateboarding can be dangerous. Just because other people don't die every single day that they skateboard doesn't mean that it's not going to hurt you. Just because your friend skateboards and he's not in the hospital today doesn't mean skateboarding won't hurt you. Likewise with social media, just because a lot of people have social media doesn't necessarily mean you should just automatically go get social media accounts. Yeah.
Okay.
You did have your hand up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you preaching against skateboarding or?
No, I'm saying it's in the gray area. And what Paul's saying is anything in the gray area, anything that is a permissible activity needs to be given thought.
So you're against skateboarding.
That's a good point she brings up. That's a good point she brings up. You did just single out skateboarding.
And cookies. And candy.
That's true. That's
Eating
right.
cookies and candy, skateboarding on social media.
Would you guys like me to pick something no one in the room does? Would that be better?
Drinking coffee.
Why would picking something that no one in the room does be better? Because it wouldn't hurt you?
No, because then we can tell our friends that they're sinning.
sorry, no.
I knew
That's
it.
not my job. That's not my job. My job is conviction. Yeah.
Now you're seeing the outcome of what social media does to society.
Whoa, don't be in that circle.
All right.
I'm already trying to get out.
Some of the things that Paul says is things in the gray area need to be, for a Christian, held to a higher standard than other things. So for instance, we're just going to pick on skateboarding because you guys read me about it. That's all I'm going to talk about now. Just because skateboarding could be bad or could be good, that doesn't mean all the reasons it's good or bad for a non-Christian are the same reasons that it's good or bad for a Christian. So in the case of skateboarding, you could fall off a skateboard whether you are a Christian or not a Christian, right? Okay. Could skateboarding be an idol and therefore a sin if you're a non-Christian?
Yes.
Yeah, but would you care?
Okay, but I don't think that like skateboarding created me.
But if you no, that's not what an idol is. Most idols in the Old Testament, most idols today are not given credit for creating people. All they're given credit for is being really awesome.
But skateboarding is really awesome.
Oh, no.
Well, that's great, but do you worship it?
No? What?
Well, then it's not one of your idols.
Worship a skateboard.
Well, you don't have to bow down to something to worship it. You just have to give it attention, give it time,
Number one.
make it the number one thing in your life.
Well,
That's it.
it's not like number
Please
one.
try and keep track here. The idols from the Old Testament were fake lumps of wood and gold and other metals or stone. They never had any ability to create. They never had anything going for them that a skateboard doesn't have going for it. They're just as dumb as a skateboard, just as cool as a skateboard. It's an object that we carved up to look kind of cool. That's it. And you can do that, and it can be okay, but it can also really, really not be okay. And it just comes down to what you do with it. Are you going to make it number one in your life? Are you going to give it more time than you give God? That's the question. You can take a perfectly permissible activity, a hobby that God's totally fine with, and you can elevate that hobby until it takes the top spot in your life, and then suddenly God doesn't matter as much as your hobby. And suddenly something that was totally okay with God becomes something that God totally hates. And it has nothing to do with the thing. It's not like the skateboard made God mad. It's our hearts. We've decided that this thing is more important than him. And it could be candy. It could be a cookie. It could be skateboarding. It could be your absolute love of the game of foosball. It doesn't really matter what the thing is. What matters is your heart. That's the same truth here for social media. So let's look a little bit harder at those three categories in social media, because some of you guys were giving me maybes and depends on the person and well, depends on how you use it and all these other ifs and maybes, and that's exactly true, and that's the point, but we want to think about those things. So first off, is the use of social media identified as a sin in the Bible? No, because social media didn't exist when the Bible was written, so like duh, it doesn't mention social media. But it does mention some stuff that people use social media for. It mentions how bad gossip is and how much it can poison a group of friends. And just saying anything bad about a person, whether it's behind their back or right to their face. It says that those things are sins and they will tear you up and it'll tear up your relationships. And that happens a lot on social media. So yeah, the Bible doesn't talk about social media, but it does talk about some of the things people use social media for. And so in that case, as many of you said, suddenly social media becomes a tool that you use to sin. You've now used social media to accomplish your sin. Interesting. All right, if we use social media to do anything the Bible says is sinful, then social media becomes sinful. Yeah.
I don't know if you were already going to mention this, but another thing is to this is kind of also kind of a gray area. I don't know. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Sure.
How about taking a picture of yourself and saying, "Wow, I look pretty good. I'm gonna post this on Facebook and get the likes," or Instagram and get the thumbs up.
What do you get on Instagram? I think it's just likes. Yeah. All right.
You get likes on Instagram.
So Elijah,
I'll have all of it.
there's a word for this. There's a name for this, and it's so funny because it's not used by people who do it. It's used by people who really don't like people who do it. It's called selfie culture, and it's basically the idea that there is something good about taking a picture of myself and posting it. So I got to ask that question now that Elijah brought it up. What is the value of taking a picture of yourself and posting it to an internet site where thousands and thousands and thousands of people could maybe see it?
Unless you're private.
Well, exactly. That's why I said could. So what is the value of that? Yeah.
Well, I post selfies. I don't really do it anymore because my camera is broken in the front. So it doesn't work for me anymore, but I used to when I could. And sometimes I like flip it around and like look in the mirror and like look at my phone and yeah. Anyways, so I don't know like why, but I just like if I take a good picture of me, I just like posting it because it's kind of my account and it's kind of the pictures that I feel like other people can see. I don't know.
Okay.
You know
You've just
you know what I
decided
mean?
like this is something
I
I
feel
want.
like there's not really a reason
Okay.
that people post them. Well, some people there is, but
You could speak to what you think of other people's posting. That's fine.
well, I feel like some people just post selfies, and some people just want attention because they post selfies that shouldn't be posted.
Very true. Yeah. Okay, they're looking for attention. Interesting, right? They could be getting attention in a lot of ways, but they picked that one. That's the one they picked. Yeah.
I think there's a difference between posting something to make you feel good about yourself versus posting something to make other people feel good about you.
So self-esteem versus the adoration of others.
It's so bad.
Okay. Why would you say that? I'm not saying you're wrong. I just want to hear it. What's your thought process?
Well, because you could enjoy yourself for being you without using a camera. All you need is a mirror.
Who needs a camera?
So would that be better or worse or the same?
Well, it would be better because you're not trying to show other people
Oh, really?
your looks.
Okay. Okay.
You're trying to be yourself in your own way without having to share that.
Okay. Yeah.
What if you post like a selfie to make other people laugh?
Interesting.
Yeah, what if you go
So
like this?
I'll go one step deeper. Why do you want to make them laugh?
They're a funny person.
Wait.
Take a step back. It was his questions.
I'm not asking a question. I'm
Okay.
just writing
So we've actually talked about this
something.
on
Not the
Modesty
one I
Night.
talked about
We
the
talked about
search
t-shirts.
I'm talking about
And
games.
sometimes you can pick out a t-shirt or post something. Either action will work here. And your heart is, I want to make someone smile. I want to make someone laugh. And so you have to ask the question though. And this is a really hard question sometimes. Is it a prideful thing? I like it when other people show me that they like me through laughter or smiles or whatever. I want the attention. Or is it an outward focused thing? Like, I like cheering people up. I like seeing them laugh. I like it when they're happy. I want to do something to make them happy. Does that make sense? Because like you can do it inwardly, get the attention, and you can do it outwardly. I want to make someone's day nicer. Does that make sense? So I think it works with a post and it works with a t-shirt. It's the same question either way. It's like, are you doing it for others or are you doing it for self? And the Bible has some pretty strong things to say about doing stuff for yourself. It's called pride. And I'm sorry to say, self-esteem is a modern lie. It's not like a thing. We kind of invented it. And so what we're really talking about when we talk about self-esteem is a sickness in what we think is ourself. We think ourself is what we think. That our thoughts dictate who we are, what we are. And that's just not true. That's a lie. It's made up. It's imaginary. What's real is what God thinks of us. And so when we get prideful, what we start to do is we start to ignore what God thinks of us, and we start to only care about what we think of us or what other people think of us. Neither one of those is good. We need to be focused on what God thinks of us. And sometimes we can put on a shirt, we can put up a post, and it's to get people to pay attention because we want validation. We want people to say, I'm good. But it doesn't actually matter if someone else says you're good. It only matters if God says you're good. Yeah.
So, it's kind of awkward saying this in front of a bunch of strangers, but
No one's making you. Just
well, I
you
know,
can
I
stop at
wanna
any
say
point.
it. I will. It's not like something like personal that's like, oh, but
Okay.
like, it takes a lot of thought to, or a lot, I don't know, courage or something to be able to say this, but I think it was like a year ago or something before I met this really nice woman named Kristen, which she's like my major inspiration to me now. And I used to want people to like me, so I posted pictures that I thought would please other people, and I wasn't thinking at the time what I wanted to do and what I thought was right. So like, thank you for the ping pong ball, Dallas. I love you.
It's a good distraction, Dallas. This is awesome.
But like, I used to not. Well, now I don't. I'm not. I don't.
Take my ping pong ball?
Dallas,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think I got the idea.
I have
Now,
ADHD, so everything distracts me.
including Dallas.
Especially Dallas.
Especially
Especially my friends.
I love what you're saying though. You were inspired to not post things for other people's attention anymore.
Well, because now I don't really care as much about what people think about me. I feel more like I can be myself now because she's like my voice coach and like my mentor through like all my hard things, and like she's kind of like also my best friend. I'm singing at her wedding and I'm so excited she's getting
That's awesome.
married.
It's
But,
important
like-
to have people you can look up to like that. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're parents and sometimes it's not. But the cool thing is that you can lean on God when you don't have someone to look up to. And oftentimes He provides someone for you to look up to. Because we do need those relationships where someone is older than us, wiser than us, cares about us, is looking out for us. That's an important relationship to have. All right, we need to keep moving so we can get to the end here. I want to read some of your guys' slips before we go. Second question is social media inherently linked with any immoral behavior? And no, but it can be. Some people get on social media and they have one goal and they end up doing something else with it. Some people get on social media and they totally stick to their goals and they do exactly what they thought they were going to do. But it's not always easy to tell before which category you're going to fall into. And so, yeah, some social media is used a lot of the time, or abused, I should say, a lot of the time, to promote immoral behavior. And some people aren't even going there with that thought. You're not getting on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat with the hope of doing something wrong, or the hope of doing something that's going to harm you. But that's what ends up happening. Sometimes we just get tempted by stuff that's immoral that we find on social media, that we see on social media, that we read on social media. And one of my temptations, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, is that you see someone who started a debate. And now there's people on two sides of a debate, or even three sides of a debate, and the debate's raging on. And the temptation is, say something in the debate. Add to it. Apparently that piano's on.
Someone left it on.
Apparently that's on,
Nice.
yeah. Thank you for finding that.
I found it out.
Good job. The Bible actually says we're not supposed to argue. We're not meant to debate, and that's difficult for me. I like
Yeah,
that.
same.
I have fun arguing and debating, and I'm not supposed to. And so that's a temptation for me. And Paul says we should run away from that stuff as fast as we possibly can. Third question, is social media always bad for your holiness or your growth as a Christian? And again, it's kind of the same as before. No, but it can be. When you use social media incorrectly, you can cause temptations that lead you into sinful thoughts or get you to actually participate in sinful activities. And yes, you can actually participate in activities in social media. If you haven't used it enough to realize that, then I'm letting you know. You can end up actually doing real life things because of something you heard, saw, read, or talked about in social media. For example, if you're spending all your time on social media, you are at best wasting time you could be using to serve God, or at worst, you're feeding an addiction. And yes, you can be addicted to things that aren't drugs. That is 100% real.
Snapchat.
You could be addicted to Snapchat.
Was, but
We're going to do a quiz in the upcoming weeks where we let you guys answer a few questions, and then we'll do the math for you, and we'll show you, like on a pie chart, how much of your life is media. It's pretty fun. I like it.
50%.
Dude, nobody got a score as low as 50% last year. Or not last year, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. No one got as low as 50%.
Wait. What if we don't have any social media or anything?
We'll
Do we
see.
just score zero?
Yeah,
Not just social.
Oh.
just media.
-3. What's media mean?
That's a good question. You should go look it up before MediaNet comes up. Yeah.
So I was gonna say, I was addicted to Snapchat, but then I deleted it for many good reasons. And yeah, so
It is good when you realize
now
an
I'm
addiction
kind
to
of
just
addicted
cut it
to
off.
Instagram. Well, I didn't delete it because I was addicted to it. I deleted it
Wait,
for
wait,
other
wait.
reasons.
We skipped one. There we go.
There
So
you go.
if you're prone to even accidentally expose yourself to content that may cause you to sin, you could be hindering your growth as a follower of Christ. What this comes down to is, if you are not the pro internet user that knows how to filter, that knows how to keep yourself away from things, that knows how to take safeguard measures to not get tripped up by stuff accidentally, then the accident is always a possibility. Reading more than you meant to read, seeing more than you meant to see, following someone who you thought was good to follow and then it turns out they weren't. These are all possibilities. And it's not to say that social media immediately falls into the black category and it's a sin and it's horrible and you shouldn't do it. It's just one of the things that Paul says we need to think about when we approach something that's in the gray. We shouldn't just dive on into something like social media without having given thought, without having taken action to safeguard ourselves. All right, last year we're going to look at some of the stuff you guys said. And it's interesting, I didn't see any yellows. I kid you not, no yellows. Yellows, if you forgot, are the people who don't have social media but want social media. So like, parents said no, but you really want it. That category apparently doesn't exist in this room. Or you're just all super honest and think your parents will never figure out that you put in a blue sheet. And like, they think you don't have social media, but apparently you do. Alright, so I'm going to read you guys the greens first. Emily, you want to help me preview? Leaders, you guys can help me preview. Find like the best ones you can find real quick. I don't think we have time to read all of them, but I'd like to read some of them. Some of you guys wrote joke answers, so we're just going to try and filter those out, as funny as you might be. Okay, so these are the green ones. These are people who don't have it, don't want it. It isn't needed for anything. It isn't a necessity. I see people who use social media, people that try to look attractive in other people's eyes. I don't want to use it because I could get bullied.
That was me.
You don't have to say so, but yes, I know. Your name is on it.
Yep.
Yeah, and his fear of that is founded because he's seen people get teased on social media. I don't want social media because I don't have a purpose for it, and I don't want to get addicted to it for any reason. That's why I don't play Minecraft. I don't know who wrote this, but I don't have Minecraft because I don't want to get addicted to Minecraft. I'm a Lego fanatic, and so like if I started Minecraft, man, it never ends. I'd just be like, my soul would be lost to Minecraft. So no Minecraft for me.
Daniel, you need to listen to Tim Hawkins' Angry Birds song.
He has an Angry Birds song? Alright guys, I'm out of green ones. Give me a good blue one.
No, you should have read mine.
It was 2 words, split between 2 questions.
I know.
Alright. Blue ones. So these are people who have social media. Their questions are, why do they have it? And what do they actually use it for? So, why do I have it? I used to have it to stay in contact with friends and family. Now, I would like to not have it. But I'm almost forced into it because it became a lot of people's only means of communication. And so to contact people about events or to get a hold of someone is now their primary use for it. Because I like it and because it can help me express myself. And then number 2, expressing myself and making memories. Number 1 on this one, because I felt disconnected from my friends. And number 2, I post pictures of things I like, never my face, and text my friends. Number 1, I have social media to contact my mom and sis and friends. Number 2, I use social media to talk to my friends from my other schools and for all my friends. And they had the little Instagram symbol. To have fun and enjoy the video games and look at pictures, to watch videos. So number 2 is video games and enjoying online jokes and listening to music. Any other good ones? Not that the other ones are bad, but not everything's going to fit in this scenario. I have social media because my parents only check my texts regularly, text apps. So, I use it to communicate and post pics and vids and keep my friends updated. I am so interesting. And there's like a teary laughing face. To post things I see that's going on in the world and talk with friends. To play games and watch perfectly appropriate videos. Please refer to answer 1. To watch videos, talk with family and friends, and get rewards in mobile games. Yes, many of them are like, please, like every one of our social accounts, and then we'll give you all the free loot. It's ridiculous. To talk to my friends that I can't reach that day. Same as the first question. For my business and for memories of my son. Business and to document life. Alright, there we go. I don't know who would have written that. That makes literally no sense for anyone in this room.
It's either Jamie or Caitlin.
Well, I don't know.
Thank you,
Alright, so, question I have. Now, for all of you, You wrote the paper answers at the beginning of tonight. We've talked a lot. We've read the Bible. Is anybody here reconsidering their answer they wrote down? Or are you just all totally on board with whatever it was you already wrote? Are you reconsidering?
I didn't want you to read mine out loud.
Oh, I apologize. You didn't have to tell us which one was yours.
We don't know.
We don't actually know which one was yours.
My name was on it.
Well,
We didn't
but
read the
I didn't
names.
read the name.
Yeah, we don't
Okay,
know.
anyways.
Just throwing it out there. It's still anonymous. All right. We all have fear of missing out on things, and this drives us to try out a lot of stuff without giving thought to it. But just because everyone else is doing something that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing for you to do. As a Christian, you've got to have good, thoughtful, beneficial reasons for everything you do. And this is something we as Christians struggle with, but the Bible literally says to not do things unless it benefits you or other people in the process. So you really have to sit down and ask that question, because it is not an automatic yes. Is using social media beneficial for you as a Christian? Is using social media beneficial for the people around you? If the answer is yes, all right, maybe you can keep on using it without sinning. That's great. If the answer is no, you need to seriously consider if God actually wants social media in your life. This is another question that, frankly, gets far too many no's. Before you started your social media account, did you ask God if He wanted you to?
No. I don't have one.
I get that. I get that. There's a lot of blues, though, so a lot of people do. Before you started your social media account, did you ask God if He wanted you to? And if the answer is no, then you already sinned. Sorry to break it to you. Well, we're all sinners.
Yeah, no.
That's not my point. It's not
I
like,
didn't-
boo,
I didn't
we
either.
hate you now. It's
Well, I
like,
wasn't like God.
you got to go back to God and say, hey, God, I went around you.
Yeah.
I did something without your approval. I did something without talking to you. I avoided you. So, first off, I'm apologizing. But secondly, God, is my social media accounts, are they something you want from me? Hey, Wyatt, you've been asked to not sit like that several times. You've got to listen to leaders or you've got to leave. This is very simple. Listening to leaders is not an optional thing. Thank you. If you guys have a social media account you haven't checked with God, go home and check it with Him. If you have a social media account you haven't checked with your parents, go home and check it with them, because I'm sorry to say the Bible is pretty darn clear on that one too. If your parents say no, if your parents never got asked in the first place, and you still have one, yeah, you sinned again. Because it's not just God. He's put people in charge of you. And it doesn't matter if you're with original parents, second set of parents, group home adults, grandpa, it doesn't matter. What matters is they're the people who are in charge of you. You were supposed to check with them. So if you don't have one yet, definitely follow whatever rules you guys have over you. If you already have one and you didn't ask for it, go back and check. Go back and find out, hey, I went ahead with this and I didn't ask you. Ask for forgiveness now. You know what's worse? You didn't ask for permission and they find it without you telling them. That's worse. It's so much better to just say, hey, I did this without you. I'm sorry. Can we make this right? That is 1,000 times better. All right. If they have given you an okay, I still encourage you to ask the why of why do I want a social media account, and to really dig into that and not just go forward with it because other people have it. Turns out, if the answer is because my friends are on social media, then you already have those friends without social media. Yes, Elijah.
When I was growing up, and I was about these kids' age, I was not allowed to go on YouTube. I wasn't allowed to look at YouTube videos. And right around this age.
Did you love the fact that your parents said you couldn't look at YouTube?
No, I hated it. all my friends were doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And because because all my friends were doing it, and there was nothing wrong with it in my mind, I went ahead and just watched YouTube videos in secret. I know, very.
You terrible child,
I know.
Elijah.
But it did come with its consequences, because it solidified feeling like that behavior was okay.
Mm.
I could have asked my parents a couple of times and given them the reasons, but instead I just went for the shortcut, went right to it. I did that with other privileges later on where I asked my parents, and they would go, oh yeah, you know what, you're old enough, sure. And yeah, so I would say, yeah, it does suck to be in that position where all your friends are doing something and you want to do something, but doing it without, not obeying the house rules will strengthen that kind of behavior, and it could potentially lead to worse things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Social media might not be the worst rule you break, but it could get you into the mode of secretly breaking rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, so now on to the too long didn't read, I guess I could have put like too long didn't listen or something. So if you guys were totally checked out and you didn't follow any of this, this is it. This is the whole thing in 3 blobs. Social media falls into the category of things that are permissible because it's not identified as a sin, it's not inherently linked with immoral behavior, and it's not necessarily detrimental to your faith. However, you've got to be thoughtful, and the thing has to be beneficial. Whatever that thing is, social media, it's got to be beneficial or else it's wrong for you to have it, so says the Bible. And if your parents have given the okay, you should still examine your heart and your motivations for why you want social media. Is it a purely selfish thing? Is it to do what other people are doing? Do you have a bad motivation or do you have a good motivation? Do you actually want to use social media for good things? And so this is it. This is the last thing. We're over on time. I just got to say this. Just got to throw it out there. If you can't think of what God would want you to do with social media, you've got the wrong idea about social media. God has things he would like for you to do when you are talking to people. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, see them face to face.
No, that's not it. That's kind of obviously built into talking to people. When you talk to people, what does God want you to do?
Spread his word.
Spread his word. Okay. Anything else? Yeah? What?
Minister.
Minister, like how? Like what would you do for a person?
Like maybe invite them to church or like give them a spot to go to church.
Okay. All right, so here's a question. Does God want you guys to tear people down, insult them, talk behind their backs, or does he want you to do something else? Like what would be the opposite of that?
Build them up.
Not
Build
doing
up
that.
people. Talk them up. Encourage them. Tell them when they've done something amazing. Just say, hey, that was amazing. You did that. Or, wow, I just saw you the other day doing that thing for that person, and that was so cool that you did that thing for that person. Just encourage people. Now, this is the golden question. Why do we feel like that's a weird thing to do with social media? That's actually the thing we're supposed to do whenever we're being social. Whether it's electronically or verbally or over a video conversation or whatever, if you're conversing with someone, if you're being social, you should be doing all of those things. Spreading the love of God, spreading the truth of God, helping people, encouraging them. And if you can't do that with social media, it's useless. What good is it for? It's purely selfish if you can't do that. Yeah. You had your hand raised.
I know I did. I forgot my question.
stretching.
Oh,
I
sorry.
like your laugh. You laughed just now. You were like,
I have several.
Sounds sweet.
All right.
Same.
That's it for tonight. If you think I hate social media, you're wrong. I use it all the time. Wait, don't leave.
Don't move. We need to
All
pray.
right. Now, if Denali got up or Romeo got up, it'd be cool because like you guys haven't been here a ton of times. But everybody else who got up, you actually know. What do we do at the end of every church service?
Pray.
We pray.
We get up and leave.
And an announcement.
I know.
We get up and then we sit back down as Daniel reminds us that we're going to pray first, and then we pray. All right, let's pray. Lord, help us to process these feelings of conviction that some of us are feeling. Help us to put you first and to not feel the pain when we realize something's been put in front of you. Help us, Lord, to take whatever it is we've got in our lives that we've put in front of you and to move it down. To make you the highest thing in our life. To put the callings you've placed on our life first. Help us, Lord, as we get into things like social media, these gray areas, to always use it for your glory. To always use it to help people. To love people. Lord, show us when we're getting selfish with our hobbies, selfish with our free time, selfish with our activities, selfish with our social media. Show us, Lord. We want to see it. We want to get closer to you. And things like these gray areas, they can tie us up. They can keep us from getting closer to you. So, Lord, just push those things away when they need to get pushed away, Lord. We ask all this in your name. Amen. All right. Love you guys. Boogie on out of here. Find your parents were like 13 minutes late. I apologize. Just too many darn good questions.
Daniel, is there any announcements, like maybe at a certain girls' event?
No, there's no Nerf nights coming up for the girls next month. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Alright, you gotta
My
text
phone
him
is
back.
like stuck in there.
Text him back.
Why gets $3 food from the snack bar?
And he's gonna give it to me.
Cody!
Hey,
Cody! Cody, guess
Where'd
what?
you find those glasses?
Hey, Cody, guess what? Kill one prank.
I know.
Oh, but that's not coming up for like weeks.
I'm gonna get my shoes.
Okay. Okay, I can work on that. I'll do that. Interesting. So was tonight cool, weird, hard, easy? Sorry to put you on the spot in a game like that.
It's not the first time.
He got stuck in it and had to like try and raise people to get a seat.
Oh, did you guys do the
No, shuffle your buns.
I know what I'm saying.
You remember shuffle your buns? There's like one seat empty in the whole room, and then one person stuck in the middle, and they have to try and sit down in the empty seat. But the person next to either seat can sit in it before them, and so the empty seat like starts to move around the room as people keep jumping one seat over, one seat over, one seat over. And so you being the guy stuck in the middle, you have to try and get there faster than someone who's 6 inches away. Usually takes until someone isn't paying attention.
So every single seat has to be covered?
Yeah, or we just take a couch out of the game. We say like, okay, that couch is out. And then then there's only one empty seat in the whole room. You have to sit in it, but people keep on sitting in it before you.
I was gonna say.
I would get mad at you and be like, you suck.
The nice part is ours isn't a real circle, and so you can almost always catch someone as they have to run from this side or from that side across the board.
I'm gonna go.
So there's always like a little bit of a gap. Or there's someone who's just not paying attention.
I try to run and then trip over my sandal. Like, whoa!
A lot of people just dive, and they people get too scared to get in their way. Just scream a little as you leave.
Good. Oh, good.
Yeah, we should probably go.
are so not in trouble because you don't know the rules. But if you're not on the worship team or taking lessons, then you're not supposed to.
Oh no, I'm actually getting a form to play the drums and Jamie.
Oh, you asked Jamie?
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. Did you not know? I just assumed because you were here one day, you wouldn't have had the chance.
Yeah, I drummed for my own church.
No, you sounded great.
Yeah, I asked Jamie if you guys need a drummer, so he talked to my mom about a form, so that next Wednesday he talks to me about it, so I be your guys' drummer.
No, that'd be great. I love that. We got a kid who wants to do it on Sundays. I don't think we have any Wednesday guys. That'd be
How about now?
great.